Welcome to Modern Sages podcast. Have you found yourself questioning if you are in tune or if what you're experiencing is actually a message from the other side? I've been there, I've done that. We've all experienced that. And in fact, we're taught and conditioned to believe that that's how we innately have to be. So, in this podcast, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a free Zoom gathering that I hosted all about spirit guides and really about how we can learn to start to trust our intuition, start to trust the right and the left brain, and how that can help us to really navigate and be empowered. Are you searching? Are you looking for something new, something different? Are you being called to your ancestral roots? The Modern Sages podcast is a tribe of women that believe in exploring beyond the broken constructs of society. We believe in empowering women to embrace the medicine within. All with an open mind, baby. One of the hardest things about trusting ourselves and about stepping into our spiritual connection, whether it be listening to the call from the ancestors, listening to the call from yourself, is this innate ability to trust. And in society, we have been taught and deemed that we can't trust ourselves, that it's not okay, it's not safe, we're unstable. And really, in this shifting, especially in this Aquarian age, we're stepping a lot into the mind. We're stepping a lot into the power of what we put out there. And a big part of that is questioning our limitations, questioning those things that we might hold ourselves back from. And even when we step into the space of self-sabotage, or we're like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's almost like adding grace and love to your space so that you can then be willing and able to trust and to surrender. And in this call that we share, it's all about trying to step into that space of trusting even just a little bit more. And also, it's important to just be patient with yourself. And that might look like going for a walk. It might look like writing in your journal and just allowing whatever to come in. Everyone's expression and connection is going to be different. And that is a good thing. There's not a one way, a one size fits all when it comes to connecting to our ancestors. And it's okay for us to give ourselves permission to explore things that align and to make us feel very joyous and excited. So, without further ado, here is the call. So I wanted to just start out by, I feel like this is something that I'm super passionate about, is helping others to really dive deep into their own unique spiritual abilities. And so it's just, I don't know, I feel like there's so much confusion as far as spirit guide goes, along with how we connect to the other side. And it just feels like there's a lot of unknown, but that there's a lot of fear that connects in as well. And so I just have felt really called to dive deeper into helping us feel more comfortable in our physical mind, being able to connect to our ancestors and our spirit guides and our loved ones. So in order for us to just dive in, I wanted to take a moment for us to just center ourselves. A lot of times our mind can go crazy and a lot of stuff just seems to go everywhere. And so when we place our hand on our heart and just connect into our center, it almost allows us to be a little more put together so that we can feel more trusting of those things that are going on around us. And so if you wouldn't mind just placing your hand on your heart and maybe even just saying 4 or 5 things out loud that you're grateful for, that bring joy and spark joy and connection in your life. Or if you want to write it in the comments, that's great too. And just take a moment to take a couple of deep breaths in. As we've aligned and dropped into our heart and connecting into this space, I wanted to first start out with sharing a story that I experienced. And then I wanted to open it up to have anyone else who feels prompted, maybe 2 or 3 people, to just kind of we'll have you come on and just share a little bit about maybe experiences that you have had or an experience that sticks out to you. Because I feel a lot of times we think that having connection to our guides has to be a specific way, when in truth, they connect into us in all different perspectives. And so I first just wanted to start with a huge, profound experience that I had that I haven't really shared much with, just because it is a very sensitive subject. However, my husband and I, we went to Hawaii and we went to Pearl Harbor. Now, I know that's like kind of a crazy thing, like being a medium and connecting into the spirit realm and going to a place like Pearl Harbor can be pretty intense, you would think. And, I just felt like I really wanted to go check it out. And I had aligned myself, really centered in that I didn't want to pick up any of the chaos or the drama or anything like that, where I just wanted to hold reverence and respect. And we got there and everything was really great. It was really awesome. Just enjoying, the reverence that it holds. And when we got out, so you take like a boat that goes to like the center of the land, or like the center of the ocean, you could say, where they have this huge memorial. And so as we were on this boat, we were going to the memorial space, and it was such a profound experience where I was sitting there and all of a sudden I was overcome with this gratitude. And instead of the fear and the stress and the drama that went down, it was like all of a sudden I was living and experiencing this sense of brotherhood, this beautiful sense of connection and sense of love and sense of joy. And as I sat with that, I was just overcome with like such emotion, because I could see that the people who had passed, like there was so much trauma going on. But it was like I could see that those who had passed away, instead of them getting stuck as they crossed over to be like, woe is me, what's going on? It was almost like it didn't affect them and they wanted to jump in and help other people. And it was like, even if they couldn't survive, they then stepped into the role of being guardians and guides to help the others who were there to survive. And it was such a sense of camaraderie. There was such a connection and such a bond that it was almost like they had such pride and such excitement to experience that aspect of saying, even though there was a lot of drama, a lot of stress, we wanted to step in and to help those who could survive. And it was traumatic, but because there was such a sense of brotherhood and such a sense of a family, it was almost like there was a huge different reverence and respect for their crossing over and their purpose in helping. And then after everything went down, it also felt like when the drama showed up for them of like, what is my family going to experience? What's this going to happen? It was like this community of all those who had passed had rallied together to help each other and to lift each other up so that they could all navigate this tragedy together, and that they could have such a beautiful, profound experience. And so along with that, it's almost like when we have these spiritual experiences and we have these connections, sometimes we just experience it in our mind, while other times we feel it. We feel this showing up for us. And sometimes it's just in our mind, it's in our heart, where other times is a physical representation or spiritual gift or support or strength or help during a hard time. And just to see that connection and that bond that they had to buoy each other up instead of being stuck in their trauma, it brought a different perspective that our guides and those on the other side are also here to help us. They're here to help us maybe when we're struggling or when we're finding ourselves in the ocean and we don't know if we can continue to kick and to survive because we're getting so tired. And they're here to help us in those times. They're here to help us in those times of gratitude when we're really expressing excitement and we want to have a deeper, profound spiritual connection of sacredness to life, or whether we're struggling, that these guides are here to help us so that we can be empowered and that we can find joy along the way. And so we'll continue on, but I just wanted to see, if there's anybody who's here who wants to hop on and to just share, even just on the audio, or if you want to get on the video, and to just share maybe a time that you have felt divine assistance helping support you and how that was experienced or how that showed up for you. Does anybody want to hop on, or maybe raise your hand and we'll get you on here? It just, as we share, it's almost like an opening to allow more connection, allow a stronger sense of purpose to really settle into our space so that we can have more profound connection as well. Anybody? I would love to hear just a couple of experiences. I know on Facebook, I've had some people share really cool experiences. And so if anyone feels comfortable, please feel free to hop on and we can share a little bit about that.
Well, I had an experience where Jesus helped me to heal a situation I had with my father after he passed. And that was very profound for me, and it was life-changing. And so I'm really grateful for that. So, it was just mind-to-mind communication and experiences, but it had a profound effect on me. And so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. And when you experienced that, and you said it was like a mind-to-mind thing, did you feel that in your body? Was it more of a thought? How did that show up for you?
Well, at first it was mind-to-mind communication, because I was asked to give a talk, Coming to Christ. And so I was preparing for the talk. And then later on, it was actually feeling his love for all the people, the preschoolers, and for the people around. So it was a combination of mind to mind, and then it was experiential. And so that was really special. And there's been other times when I recognized my, and my father, and finally then I recognized that he was watching me and looking over me and stuff like that. And that was really special. He was always very busy. And so for me, I didn't realize how much it was so profound for me. I didn't realize the drama that it caused in my life, not having him be more present for me. But the Savior knew, and he healed it. And I didn't even know I had a problem with it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else, would you like to share anything? And it can be something, it doesn't have to be as intense or as in depth, but even just finding a time where you felt an angel or an ancestor or a guide around you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Lindy.
Hey. I have a sound machine on, so I hope you guys can hear me. I'm holding a little baby. I with Breaker, my second kid, and I was in labor. It was a pretty intense labor that was kind of going on. And I was doing a home birth, and it was, anyways, my body was really struggling because of my C-section before and blah, 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 blah. That doesn't really matter. But what matters, and the point is that it was really, really intense for like 30 hours. And it got to the point where like my body was like, I'm either going to have this baby or I'm not. And I might need to go to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. So there's some drama and trauma. And I just remember specifically like closing my eyes, and all of a sudden it was like I could just feel and sense all of these people around me, not just my birth team, not just my midwife, not just my husband, but it was this intense moment of like, I've got ancestors, I've got angels, like I am protected and I can trust my feelings or the guidance that I've been given and my intuition and what was going on, because there was a sense of like, okay, should I go to the hospital type of a feeling. And I just could remember feeling and sensing my angels kind of bolstering me up and being like, don't give up just yet. And it was really beautiful, and it was very touching, and I ended up being able to like have my baby just fine, and it was wonderful and all the things. But that was a very potent experience for me, to have my angels around me and just like kind of see them, but really feel them and feel the intensity that like, no, I have a tribe, which of people around me, of angels around me that were there to help me have that baby. So
I
there's
love
that.
it. And Breaker is so dang cute. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Lindy. I think that's so special. And that's, it just goes to show that regardless of what we're going through, we can have a divine assistant show up for us in ways that we need. And not only that, they're here to help empower us to fully come into who we are called to be and what our soul ultimately is here to experience. And alongside that, it can be a great reminder that we're not alone and that we truly do have support on the other side. So, along with that, I know we all are like, yes, we understand, we know all that. But I think just like sharing and seeing how it can happen in different perspectives in all different ways. It can be a physical person showing up and letting you know how beautiful that you are, or it can be a very deep experience that's soul changing. Regardless of how that shows up, our spirit guides are here to help guide us and assist us. And every connection is different. Every person's going to experience them differently. And I don't know about you, but it can almost feel a little bit hesitant to share personal experiences because then there's this weird energy that society has put on having to keep everything spiritual secret. And it's a bad thing if we share our stuff, if we open up and talk about things, because then maybe someone will feel bad that they haven't had those experiences. But we all have had experiences. We may not just be noticing them, and they might not be as predominant at times as they are for other people. And that's totally perfect. That's part of our connection. Is sometimes we really have a great connection with somebody, and other times, like in the physical realm, we might have a really good best friend and we have a lot of connection and we're feeling really inspired and connected. And then maybe there's a little break. And maybe life gets busy and then you kind of die down for a little bit and then you pop back in and you have that connection. But when we put attention and energy into those relationships, we can feel that strength. And then there's those friends that you meet and you have a good connection with, and then you don't talk to them for a while, and then you meet back up and you're best friends again. And you're like, just have this soul to soul connection. And we can have that with our spirit guides. And when we put energy and attention calling upon them to having them be here with us and show up for us, we can be and feel a lot more connected. But then there are going to be those guides that show up every now and then, and we can have a mutual respect for them. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the question box. I love having things be an interactive experience because we're all learning and growing together, and I'm not here to be the teacher, but that we can have these communications and these activities. So along with that, a lot of times when I'm honing in and doing mediumship readings, I always like to describe how I can connect into our guide, like our loved ones. And I use it kind of like a dial. And if you think about our right brain and our left brain, my mom always taught me, you have your right brain and your left brain. And your left brain is a lot more analytical. It questions things, it gets things done, it's the driver. And then you have the right brain, which is the creative, it's the free flowing, it's the receiving side. So in life, of course, we have both. We have the divine masculine, the divine feminine, the right and the left. And we have this beautiful union between the two, or we strive for that at least. It's not always the case, but as we're striving for it, it can bring a better sense of balance. But it's almost like when we're delivering or connecting into our guides, in order for us to feel that connection, I like to imagine turning down the volume on the left side and turning up the volume on the right side. And in doing so and setting that intention, it's allowing the ego or the physical, the questioning, the mental aspect of like, oh, I can't have this. And what about this? And we make it so complicated. So when we turn that down and we turn the volume up on our spirit self, on our creative self, on our receiving self, we're opening up the flow for a higher connection and for it to be stronger. But it's also allowing us to surrender and to trust that which is coming in. And so before moving forward, I wanted to just take a little exercise and just have you shake it out, shake your shoulders, get comfortable. Place your hand on your heart, rolling your shoulders, maybe your neck, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable and centered. And I want you to energetically imagine that there is this frequency of waves or sound all around you. Maybe you can hear your favorite song, or maybe just noticing the energy around you, or even in your physical environment, what you're hearing. And now I want you to imagine, and even as you talk to the left side or as you touch your left ear, I want you to just imagine turning your ear or turning the volume down and giving yourself space to just sit with that energy of turning it down, of surrendering to fear, of surrendering disapproval, uncertainty, questioning yourself. And then as you touch your right ear, I want you to acknowledge how it feels and turn it or activate it, turn the volume up, however you want to do so. And to just notice the frequency. And as you activate this, it's also important to maybe acknowledge things that bring you joy. Once again, saying things that you love about yourself or that you love about life right now. What's going on in your life? Penny, you found this amazing clock. And being guided to go to that specific thrift store to find that clock, it's like, I'm so grateful for that. And as we can acknowledge the difference between the chaos, closing down or turning down the chaos and turning up the receiving, it gives us a better sense of purpose so that we can start to trust ourselves. So now that we've done that, go ahead and open your eyes or just become present in the moment. And just notice how you're feeling. Notice what's going on inside of you, what you're experiencing around you. And don't make any of it bad or wrong. We're here, we're human. Maybe you have kids screaming in the background. That's totally fine. It's okay to give yourself permission. Nothing's going to be perfect. We're going to always have distractions going on. And that's when we're like, okay, where am I at? I need to turn it up, or I need to turn it down. Or sometimes we have such a low frequency that we just feel like a dead doorknob and we're not connected to anything. Nothing excites us. We feel like we're in zombie mode. That's the perfect time to connect back into your ears and notice the frequency. Am I at 100%? Am I at 50%? Am I at 10%? And it's almost like when we can be aware of that, we can ask our guides or whatever we need to do to raise that frequency so that we can feel that connection. And sometimes we need to be more in our analytical brain. Sometimes we have things we got to get done. And if we're constantly in the space of flow and just like don't have the energy, it's like, I got to turn this up so I can have energy and clarity to move forward. And when we want to sit and receive and have that connection, it's raising that frequency and then trying to find a balance in between the two when we can. And it's something as simple as connecting in, turning the frequency up or down, and having this connection. So as we've raised our right frequency all the way to 100, and let's put like our left brain to maybe 20, 15, 20, so that we can have that space and that connection that we feel flowing and trusting and honestly part of who we are. And there's no need to shame the analytical side. There's no need to be like, oh, this keeps showing up when we're meditating. It's like, sometimes I can't meditate. Well, maybe you need to go for a walk instead of meditate and sit and hum, because maybe that's not what you need right now. And so it's okay to just experience that. We all have our unique expressions, our unique experiences, and our guides are going to connect to us in different ways all the time. We're constantly growing and evolving. And so maybe one way they connect to us isn't going to stick with us our whole life. Maybe it's going to be changing as we're changing. Maybe they're going to start showing up for us in ways that we can trust in a deeper way. So they might show up in different ways that we're learning to trust those intuitions and those promptings. So, any thoughts or questions, please go ahead and comment them or unmute, and you can share whatever you would like. But along with that, I feel like it's important for us to remember that everything has an essence. Everything has a spirit. Every being around us has a spirit. We have our animals, our loved ones, ourself, the plants, the grass, being outside, the water. Everything has an essence. It has a spirit, and it was created in the image of connection, of guidance, of support. And when we feel disconnected, we're forgetting the essence of who we are. So if we all have an essence, if our animals, if our children, if the plants, if all those things have a spirit, of course there's going to be spirits in the other planes that are going to help us and to be here with us so that we can navigate and move forward. They want to be a part of all of that. So I wanted us to just take a moment to think about, or if you have a pen and a paper, to first just connect into your own spirit, to know that you have a spirit and that your spirit is powerful. And so if you just take a moment to turn up the volume on the right, and maybe it's even in the message, just type, "My spirit is," and just allow whatever words to come to you. Who is your spirit? What is your spirit? I would love to see in the comments what people have written, or even in a journal, My spirit, me, Cassidy, my spirit is Lindy, my spirit is Penny, my spirit is. And just give yourself permission to write the first few things down that are showing up for you. Who is your spirit? And you might find yourself trying to have the left side find the perfect answer or find the right thing to say or how it needs to be. But when we can surrender, turn the volume down, turn it up on the right, and say, "My spirit is." Christine wrote joyful. My spirit is joyful. What else is your spirit? When I connect in, I feel like my spirit is creative and spunky and trusting and self-expressed, powerful. What is your spirit? Please, please, please write them in the comments. I love seeing these things. And it's just trusting the first things that pop into your head or into your heart or into your body. There's no need to overcomplicate anything. And then next, let's switch it. Let's think of a family member or a loved one. And I want you to think of that person. Their spirit is. Penny says, "My spirit is caring and sacred." I love that. Now let's shift the energy to somebody that we love. Maybe a spouse or a child or a best friend. And think about them. Think about their face in your mind. And who is their spirit? What does their spirit talk to you like? How do they show up for you? How would you describe that person's spirit? We so easily have conversations where like, "Oh, you're so good at this and you're that and you're this and you're that." And it's almost like going a little bit deeper. Who is your spirit? Who is their spirit? What does their spirit have to share with you? And it's simple. It's those simple things that first pop up into our mind. And then we might think, okay, how do I go deeper? How do I create more sacred? How do I create more heart-centered connection? Breathing it down into your stomach and allowing that to be part of this expression. Part of my spirit likes to move my hands a lot and to shift energy. through breath, through breathing, through moving. It's part of this expression that my spirit has. My physical body typically would like to be timid, but when I'm in my element, I'm like moving my arms, being crazy, more expressive than normal, you could say. So when we can connect into that everything has an essence. Every being around us is a spirit. Every person is here navigating this human journey. And we also have a guidance of who we are: joyful, caring, sacred, crazy, outgoing, fun. Think about the children that you have around you. How are they? My loved one's spirit is happy and determined. I love that. And happy can be really great and spunky, and sometimes determined can be great and spunky, and sometimes it can be a push, a drive, a motivation. And when we know that's part of their spirit's expression, we can give them a little bit more freedom to be them, right? It's like, oh, their spirit came here to be determined and to be happy. And so maybe when they're not happy or when they're feeling lethargic, it's like, hey, your spirit is typically happy and determined. How can we help you find that determination again? What do you need to go do to play to boost that happiness so then you can be determined again? It can be as simple as that. You know, my husband, Curtis, his spirit is a renegade and is very caring and playful and fun. And knowing that if he's feeling sad or determined or stuck or uncertain of things, it's like, well, go have fun, go do something that brings back your expression, and then you're reconnected. You're bringing balance back to both the right and the left together, with them working together. So when we come to our spirit realm, I feel like I just saw something go on here. I'm missing something. So when we can connect into that essence, connecting into that space, it almost like opens up a different sense of trust, and it makes things feel a little bit more easy flowing. And maybe that's something to practice when you're seeing somebody and you're having a conversation like, wow, their spirit is this and this and this. Or your animals, my dog's spirit is this and this. And when we can recognize spirit to spirit, essence to essence, it opens up a different space of sacredness in life. It helps us to see someone at the core of who they are versus maybe the shadows, the trauma, the stress that they're living in. Because our guides, our loved ones, see us as spirit to spirit. Even though we could be doing the worst stuff, we could be feeling like we're not ourselves, we're acting out of fear, out of trauma, out of drama, and we're making decisions that aren't in our authentic space. Our guides see us spirit to spirit. They see who we innately are, maybe not the choices that we're making, but they see who we innately are, and they're here to help boost us so that we can remember who our essence is and what our essence is. And if you're having this shift of life, if maybe you're in a space of, man, I used to think this, I used to be this way, and I'm shifting into this new perspective. Every 7 years, we have a 7-year cycles where we're learning different lessons, we're becoming a different human. And in those cycles, certain things make sense to us and other times they don't. And then it's like this evolving process. So our guides see our spirit to spirit. They see who we innately are, and they see the growth that we are accruing and stepping into. So they're not here to judge us. They're not here to say, oh, you're doing bad or you're doing wrong. Sometimes they might be like, hey, you're off the track. Like, shape up. You're doing a shitty job right now. It's time to move forward. But then they're also here to support us and to help us to see our best self and to see that person in which we are and how we can navigate and be a more intense and a more connected individual. So alongside that, there's so much to offer when we jump into that space. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions before we continue? Perfect. Okay. So I feel like a lot of times we can do a meditation to meet our guides, and that's wonderful and beautiful, and that has power. And I also think that us just having a spirit to spirit recognition of who our guides are and their spirit, who they are, their name, what they're here to show up for us as, can also be very profound. And this has been something that's really been showing up in my space recently. I've had this this desire. I feel like I have all these things that I want to create, and then I find myself having to try to enroll other people in that creation because I don't know if I can do it on my own. Like I don't have the trust in myself to do it. And I've been having this lesson show up of like, it's great to work with people and have people in your space, but also, are you giving away your power to somebody else because you don't think that you can do it? And all of a sudden I was like, well, I want to have a team. I want to have some kind of support system to help me. And in that aspect, I just had this whole download of information of connecting into your guides and allowing them to be the team that you're diligently seeking and that you want to have deep within yourself as your security net. And also a way to make things fun and connective and not all you. So along with that, I had this pen and paper and I wanted to use fun colors like a little kid because it's like your inner child. And I drew out different signs or like a heart or a flower or an infinity sign. And I've done a lot of work in the spirit realm and meditation, meeting my guides. And then there are other times where I feel like there's a guide around and I'm questioning if it's a real thing or not. And so it was almost like writing things out and even writing it in a playful way. Okay, this guide can be this and this person can be this, and just giving them the space to share who they are and their name. And so I wanted to do an activity tonight where if you can get a pen or a paper, or even if you're just sitting still or whatever you end up doing, just giving yourself space to once again turn the volume down on the left, turn the volume up on the right. And I first want you to make a list of 10 things that make you happy. And the reason why I keep bringing this up is because the higher that we have our frequency, our joy meter, we are activating a deeper sense of connection. I like to think of it like this. We have our baseline here, right? And sometimes we're having a really hard time. And let's say this is where our guides are because they're in a higher frequency than we are. So there are times where we're really in a depth. We're in like a dark night of the soul in this density. And our guides can come and connect with us and they can show up for us and be there. But it takes more effort for them to make those connections. But when we're raising our frequency, when we're showing gratitude, when we're embracing the things that we love, we're raising that frequency, which allows them to touch us and to talk to us and to be around us a lot more often. And it's almost opposite of what we've been taught. A lot of times in society, we're taught we have to struggle in order for us to have divine assistance, or we have to be going through grief or death or a heavy, heavy experience for us to feel supported, which is true. They're here to help us. But as we're evolving and we're showing that we're trying to connect in, trying to enjoy and to be happy and playful, they have a different perspective and a different way of connecting with us in a more frequency space. Penny says, is it religious or emotional? I don't know what you're meaning as far as that goes. Is it religious or emotional? If you want to hop on and maybe ask the question, it might be a little more clear. Or if you want to type it out. Is it religious or
Can you
emotional?
hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, there's two different things here. Religion is one thing, your religious beliefs of the spirit world, but otherwise I look at it, it's just more of an emotional thing, a personal thing that's not really any type of religion thing. It's just more one-on-one.
Yeah.
Which is it religious or a one-on-one?
Well, it can be what you subscribe to, right? Is like there are a lot of beautiful factors that religion brings. There's a lot of guidance, a lot of support, and all religion should point us back to, or at the core of it, it points us back to having divine connection. Regardless of how that looks, like we have divine connection. We are divine connection. And so, whether it be religious or emotional, or people subscribe as like spiritual, whatever we're connecting into that's helping us to remember the divine, to remember that our soul is more than this, I feel like it opens up a different sense of purpose. And sometimes it's rewiring or releasing limitations that maybe religion has brought up. Maybe it's like, oh, I can't connect to my angels. I can't connect to them because I wasn't taught that that's okay. But if you take a step back and pull back to the bird's eye view, say you're a bird, a robin, a blue jay, an eagle, an owl, right? Sitting on these branches, and we can pull back and look at this life in general before we come into this density or this meat suit. We are a spirit essence. And in this lifetime, we're here to remember that spirit essence and to create and to experience the body, to experience density, to experience joy. And then it's like after we leave this body, we're back into that spirit essence. We're back into that spirit self. And so having spirit to spirit connection, whether it be through religion, whether it be through emotion, whether it be through your spirituality, these things can all point us back to this remembrance that we are spirit connection. And actually having a spirit to spirit connection or a connection to a guide, it sounds like a foreign concept in this physical realm, but in reality, that's naturally who we are. And there's not a separation. We come here and there's a separation. But if we pull back, like I said, onto the branch and look at it from that perspective, having these soul to soul connections and having them show up for us is actually innately who we are, is these beautiful divine connections. And more than likely, we were someone on the other side helping people here before we came here. So we're part of this cycle of connecting, of reconnecting, of connecting, of remembering, of creation, of signs, of symbols, of connection. All of these things are innately who our big spirit is. We just tend to forget about that in this physical world. I hope that makes sense, Penny. Does that make sense? Or do you have any other questions about that? Because it can be a very one-on-one, a one-on-one thing, but a lot of times with religion too, it's when we can get to the core of that, it's also supposed to help us to feel that one-on-one connection, regardless of what that looks like.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. Any other thoughts about that? I know it can be a little confusing. Anything else for you, Penny, there with that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you for asking that. So let's dive into this activity of, I even forgot where we were at, but we're just going to dive in here. So making a list of those things that bring you joy or bring connection into your space that make you feel alive and excited and lifting your energy. Now, I want you to just close your eyes and set the intention that we're going to call upon a guide to show up for us here. And I want you to really focus in on that list that you wrote about the things that make you feel alive inside. Surrendering, turning the volume up on the right side. And now I want you to just ask your spirit guide, what is your name? And the first name that pops into your head, write that down. And from that point, we're going to have you write their name. So maybe it's Grant. Grant's spirit is ... And write that down. And maybe if you want to go a step further, Grant's spirit is ... whatever that is. And then ask, what are you here to help with? Or how do I know you're around? And just whatever the first thing is that pops into your mind, that feels in your body, that you're seeing in your mind, write that down. And maybe you want to try it a couple of times. If you're ready for another guide to show up, it's like, okay, I want to get to know my guides. What is your name? Write it down. So-and-so spirit is ... And you might feel like it's almost in your imagination. But for people who are very clairvoyant, who see things, a lot of it is in that imagination space. Is when delivering messages. Even today I had a session and there was a lady with hummingbirds all over, like more than I've ever seen before. And it wasn't that my room was literally full of hummingbirds. It was in my mind's eye, in that imagination state. I could see all these hummingbirds. And to me, that's a sign. To me, that shows that she's got a bunch of hummingbirds around her, whether it be a connection to her ancestors, to a grandmother, to somebody showing up. And it's acknowledging that area, because in truth, that area, that imagination state is our natural essence. It's what our spirit communicates in before it came here, while it's here, if we allow us to. And when we leave this world, we go back into that same flow, into that same space. And we're taught, children are so connected. They're so connected to their spiritual gifts. They're so aware of things. And maybe you as a child had a lot of depth, a lot of spirituality, a lot of gifts. And then you start sharing about it and your parents are like, nope, no way. You can't have that. What are you thinking? That's not okay. So we shut it down. But even Christ teaches to be as a child. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be as a little child. A little child has that innocence. They're in that state of connection until they're told it's bad or it's wrong or they have a scary experience. Then they close it down. So as we open that back up and we start to trust in what we're feeling or seeing in the realm just beyond us, it can help us to trust that divine guidance and that connection. And you might also feel when you say, what is your name? And you might feel a sense of excitement or a different presence that they bring. And that's something to notice too. If it's a very grounded essence, if it's someone who's very hyperactive, a lot of energy, does it make your heart flutter? Does it bring a different space in your body? How is that showing up for you? Maybe it's just something to practice, right? As all of these things take time and they take knowledge and they take practice, not even knowledge, but trust to have these connections and to know that it is your natural essence. It's who you've always been and who you will always be. And it's just remembering and trusting in that space. So we have a few minutes before we close up to answer any questions that you may have. And then we'll wrap it up here. Or if you wanted to share your experience. I know it seems really simple, but really connecting and having connection to our guides it can be simple and profound. It can be both, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. But when we can trust that we're guided and we can trust ourselves, we have a deeper connection and a deeper sense of purpose. So does anybody have any extra questions or they want to share their experience or anything?
Can I say one thing again?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm getting rich off of quarters. I find them in the weirdest and in the weirdest places, and it's just doesn't never get old. It just reminds me of that I have people on the other side watching over me, and this little experiences. But yeah, I just love it when I feel that connection somehow, some way, just touch me. The
Mm-hmm.
joy is tremendous. I
Yeah.
love it.
And it's almost like when we can have that connection, it's like, oh, I feel so joyful. It feels so exciting and so lighthearted. A lot of times our loved ones are here to connect to us in ways like that, that we don't always acknowledge that they're around us in doing so. And so I love that you have that opportunity to experience that.
Let me
It's,
share one experience with you. I was at
yeah.
my son's house and I thought, I really need to find a quarter today. Where would he put a quarter today? Where would he put one? And I thought he would put one outside in the gravel in front of my other son's yard. So I walked outside, I walked around the gravel, totally disappointed, didn't find one. Didn't find one. Went in, took a nap, and I woke up and my husband was upstairs and he said, "Hey, the neighbor kid came over and was so excited. He found a quarter in Sam's front yard on the gravel." And my first response was, "Would you give him $1 for it? That was my quarter. I looked for it." No, it was just interesting that I just felt like it would be out there in the gravel, and the little neighbor boy found a quarter and was so excited he found the quarter in the gravel. It was
Yeah.
just a fun experience.
I love that. And even having that thought, oh, it's going to be here. And then maybe it didn't show up for you. And it's like, ah, man, that's a bummer. But sometimes those things don't show up for us, but it's still the intention of trying. It's the intention of stepping in, of listening. And so knowing that even maybe your thoughts were guided
Well,
to go check that out.
He got happy. He found a quarter, and I was happy because that quarter was meant for me. So he got
Yeah.
credit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a fun
Perfect.
experience.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any questions or want to express maybe what they experienced in that connection of what is your name? Anything like that? There's a couple of resources that I also think would be pretty profound if you're wanting to really navigate or step into this. There is an amazing audiobook, and I would get the Audible because the Audible is seriously profound. But it's called Ask Your Guides. I don't know if you can see that. And it's by Sonia Quozet. And it's calling in your divine support system for help with everything in life. Ask your guides. And this is seriously one of my favorite books. She breaks down so many different elements. She talks about different kinds of guides along with your frequency, archangels, all the things. It's just a really great book. And such a beautiful, beautiful resource to really hone in on and to just deepen that if that feels aligned for you. Does anyone else have any questions? I love the name The Shit. That's hilarious. um, does anyone else have any thoughts, any questions, anything you want to address before we end our evening? I hope that this has sparked a little bit of something within and even just something to think about. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to bring forward is I put this in the comments, but coming up soon in the month of September, I am going to be doing a month of spirit to start the spooky season outright. We're going to be honing in and touching in upon, a lot of times we're taught, oh, we have to keep things secret and sacred. And there's a lot of this misconception or a lot of this heaviness that we can't be connected, or just a lot of this trauma that showed up. And, in this month of spirit, we're going to be debunking a lot of the taboo around having spiritual connection, along with diving deeper into our spiritual connection and how spirit speaks to us in ways that are playful and fun and alive and also very profound. So if that's something you're interested in, I would definitely suggest to get on the pre-registration. Along with the pre-registration, we're going to be having a free one-on-one Zoom call. It's going to be like a 30-minute call, just kind of honing in to see where you have been connected, maybe where you feel disconnected, along with a private group reading and a discount when the enrollment opens up for the month of spirit. So that's just one little thing that's coming up that I'm super excited about, along with the fun retreat in October about learning to trust your intuition and to trust yourself again. Because there's so many ways that we have lost that connection or lost that trust. And, it's just part of the journey of being human. And we're all being called back into this space of remembrance of who we truly are. And so before closing, we're going to reset our mind, reset our brain, and just focus on bringing the right side back to the center at 50% and the left side back to 50%, and twisting that in so that we're not too high up in the spirit realm and we're not closing ourselves off in that way, so that we can be both above and below and have this beautiful flow. Are there any other questions before we close up today? Anything else you want to address or sit upon or talk with? Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what do you suggest, if you're just feeling really blocked, nothing's really coming to you, or you're just instantly nope, you second guess it?
Like second guessing guides, or even feeling any kind of connection?
Yeah, or just if it comes into your head, you're oh, I just made that up, how do you, I don't know, figure out that it's real, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, let me sit with that for a moment to see about that connecting in, because it can be easy, and it's also a pattern. We've also been taught that we need to question ourselves. We can't trust that. And so it's really this remembrance of stepping back into that space. And so let me just sit with that and see what we can bring in to help strengthen that. When you were really little, did you feel very connected, but it was also a little bit scary? Did you experience a lot of scary things?
I don't know if I experienced a lot of scary things. Honestly, I don't really remember being really little. So maybe that's what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me sit with that for a minute. I just feel like I need to move my body and shift any of that stress out. But I feel a lot of it, a lot of tension in my lower back too. So I'm trying to just move that move that energy out. And I think too, an important thing sometimes when we do feel like we're stuck or we don't have that connection is, like we talked about at the beginning, going back and reflecting maybe when you have felt a connection, or when you have felt a presence around you. And even if you didn't act upon it, or even if it didn't show up that right way, but just showing the space of them coming into your space and knowing that that has happened in the past. Can you think of any experiences like that for yourself?
Yeah. I guess it's just more when I do try to do things like this or meditate, it's nothing does come.
And in meditation, is it hard to sit still or to calm your mind? Is it just I got nothing again, of course?
Yeah. And then it's what's wrong? What am I doing wrong?
Are you also a very I'm just trying to connect into this, because sometimes too, movement is very a key factor, or even music. I feel like music might also be a really beautiful connection point where it's like, maybe even if you're driving and you're listening to music that inspires you and it brings like this bubbly energy where it's like, my soul feels so alive and so expressed. And then it might be even noticing thoughts that are coming in or messages that are coming in, or when you feel the chill of music, like the words hitting to your core, like that's also a way of them showing up for you in a way that speaks to maybe your heart in a safer way to trust that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like it more comes up in like a physical like way.
Yeah, and when someone's really clear, not voyant, clear sentient, which is clear sensing, a lot of times they'll feel it in their body. So you might not see it or it might not show up like that, but it's like maybe you'll feel it in your body. You're like, I just feel really restless. I need to move. Or maybe after a good workout or a good walk, all of a sudden there's a sense of like calm where your body's like, your heartbeat is elevated, but it brings like the blood flowing through your body. That might be something to focus in on too. And then like when you do feel that, notice maybe what you're feeling around you. And then I also think that hearing things is really potent too. Like focusing also on clairaudient is like noticing the thoughts that are streaming through your mind. Cause I feel like there's a lot that's going on that you might just think it's just my thoughts. It's just what's happening versus it being something that's like trusting that. And when you can notice those things that feel the most connected, it's like giving yourself space to feel that and to just like trust when you feel that. Because as you feel that more often, or you put yourself in positions to feel that, it will start to grow stronger and it'll be like a ripple effect. Like when I first got started, I would draw things out. It was like I had a pen and a paper and I would just draw and I didn't even know what I was drawing. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, okay, I'm going to talk about this and that and this and that and this. And all of a sudden it was like channeling this information when my intention was just drawing out this picture. And then all of a sudden it's like this whole guidance that's coming in. But that was a safe way for me to have a physical representation of something that I could go off of instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to just fully trust my spirit when it's hard to do that at times. Sometimes we need physicality to help us to embrace that, whether it be like quarters or people who use tarot cards or oracle decks or yoga, right? Or music that's going to help speak to their soul in a way that feels safe. But when you feel that safety, it's like, oh, this is how it works. And then it's putting yourself in situations to allow that to arise within you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What does that spark for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Just like diving into it deeper, trying to like be, I guess, more aware of it, or like if I do if I do second guess it, stopping that and being like, well, wait, like to try to maybe dive in deeper first and see.
Yeah.
And I try to acknowledge it, I guess.
Yeah. And I think even like turning up, like focusing, like, I'm going to turn up the volume. I'm really ready to hear it. I'm ready to turn it up to experience it. Is something that is so helpful when we get into that space of trusting. But yeah, it feels like experiencing things in your body is a big thing. And maybe you might find yourself being around people and all of a sudden, if they have a body ache, you might have a body ache, or like coming into and being like, oh, that was a lot. That person was dealing with so much. I can feel it in my body. Like that is such a great gift, but it can also feel like a weakness that we tend to shut off as well. And so it's even maybe being aware of that. And then maybe noticing in your body where something's showing up. If you're like, oh, I'm really having something with my right kidney or my right ovary is really hurting. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to focus in on that area and just maybe play music and just let them and just, click shuffle. And then just let that music allow your spirit, allow your guides to speak with you and work with you, even through music, if it's like a pain or a tension or an area in the body that you can feel that connection. I know that might sound different, but everyone's experience is different. That's the thing, right?
No, I mean, that resonates a lot with me because when I've done Reiki, especially recently, like I feel it in my body and I'm just like, I don't know what that means. And I'm like,
Yeah. I would look into clear sentience, clear sensing. And the other thing too is Reiki's amazing in that space. And there's different layers too of like our psychic or our spiritual abilities. And the first layer is the aura, and it's noticing the body. It's noticing people's bodies and showing up in that space. And it's like, okay, if I have a gift in that area, I can focus in on healing, healing in the body and feeling in my body. And when you feel comfortable in your body, it will also in tune your connection to the other side as well. I don't know if that's resonating, but that's something that's popping in. And then the shit said, I think the harder we try to find things, we miss the simple things that they are trying to show us. Yeah. And really, I love that. And that can be as simple as a song coming on shuffle. It's like, wow, that really spoke to my soul. Like, thank you for sending that. And feeling that release that they're here to help us in those simple ways as well. Thank you for that. Do you have any other questions or thoughts about that, Cassidy?
no, you covered it.
Oh, it's Crystal. Hello, Crystal. Welcome, welcome. I love your name. It's hilarious. It's my girl in Idaho. Perfect. Anything for you, Anna? Before closing up, or even you, Crystal? Anything popping in? Or Christine? I know it can be when we can surrender and just trust, turn the volume up, turn the volume down. It's a practice, it's a space of practice. And it's just a little bit more trust, and it's always about releasing because sometimes we forget or we have these programs. It's like, it's not safe. I can't do this. I can't do anything like that. So yeah. Anna said, not really anything to share, but this is great to learn more. Awesome. Perfect. Well, I hope that this answered some questions or brought a little more clarity. As I said, I'm just getting started in these. And so I'm also learning. I'm definitely seeing what works, what doesn't work, how to bring things forward. It's strengthening a different muscle than I have before. And so thank you for all just being here and going with the flow and letting me show up and trust spirit even deeper in my own gifts. And I hope that that's something that you can learn and that you've learned to dive deeper, even just a little bit, to trust your connection even just a little bit more. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have an amazing Thursday night. Thank you so much for listening to this live call. I hope that you learned something out of it. I know that this has been a principle and a simple practice that has really changed and really deepened my connection to the spirit realm and being able to offer up channeling and connecting into loved ones who have passed on. This has been a key factor in that. And so I hope that you learned something and that stuck out to you. As I mentioned in the call, I am hosting a month of spirit in September. And in this container, there's going to be 8 classes. And we're going to be really debunking and removing any of those past traumas, any of those limitations that have held us back from stepping into spirituality. We too are going to be discussing the duality in the spirit realm. A lot of times and just in passing in regular conversations, it's so easy to be like, talk about paranormal and scary things. But we don't always talk about the positive and the enlightenment things because we're taught you have to keep all those sacred things secret. And in doing so, yes, there is a time and a place for all things, but also in doing so, it almost like pulls us back from being able to really embrace and to feel those things and to be okay and know it's a normal concept. It's part of our innate ability. And so in this month of spirit, we're going to be honing in on all of those. We're going to be doing some activities and activations to bring your gifts online, along with having different ways that the Spirit connects into us and how we can start to trust those things that are coming forward. There's going to be a beautiful PDF that has different bonus activities and all the good things. So, and we're going to be having an amazing soul tribe that's just going to connect and all deepen together. So, if that really resonates with you, in the show notes below, there is a pre-registration form that I would love for you to fill out to receive extra bonuses before our September month of Spirit begins. Do you feel called to connect to your medicine within? Have you wanted to strengthen your spiritual gifts? Are you looking for ways to incorporate the sacred into your everyday life? Maybe do you want to have like-minded friends in a tribe who can connect with you? Modern Sage's Soul Tribe is dedicated to spiritual seekers like yourself who are embracing the medicine within. Now, in this tribe, we are going to be doing moon gatherings, amazing spiritual gift giveaways, connecting to a soul tribe, as well as hosting mystery school classes. If you are feeling called to connect to the soul tribe, I will leave a link for you in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to Modern Sages Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us online. Blessings.